have a Youth Ambassadors program in Phoenix, and it's basically just a way for kids to get involved with the diabetic community in Tucson and be there, support each other, mentor other kids that are recently diagnosed in the hospital and stuff like that, and help out with fundraisers and just go towards the mission for ADA. So I'm really happy to have you guys here. What we're gonna do is we have Sheaffer Skadsen, who is a type 1 diabetic who plays for our soccer team here at U of A, so that's pretty cool. She's a collegiate athlete, and she'll talk to you guys a little bit about her experience and what it was like growing up with type 1, but then making it such a success in her athletic career. And then after that, we'll play some soccer and have some fun. And at any time, if you need water, snacks, they're right up here. And we'll kind of get to know each other. It'll be really fun. So before I introduce Sheaffer, I want to point out Dave right here with the camera. So he's in charge of the ADA in Tucson. And then Ann is the director of all of Arizona. So she's out here too. Cool. So without further ado, this is Sheaffer, Arizona soccer player, and she'll kind of tell you about her story.
Hi, so yeah, I'm Sheaffer Skadsen. I play soccer at the University of Arizona. I just finished my senior season here actually, so my eligibility is complete. But I played 4 years and loved every minute of it. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon area, and I came to the University of Arizona on the soccer scholarship, so that's what brought me here. And it's been the best 4 years of my life. I could never imagine doing anything differently than I have. Let's see, I'm just gonna be really informal about this and kind of tell my story from start to where I'm at now. And if you have any questions in between or want to hear more about something, feel free to just interrupt with questions, or at the end we can do any sort of question and answer form that you're comfortable with. So I was diagnosed just about 10 years ago this month. It was just before spring break when I was in 6th grade, so I was 11 years old. And I was a really avid athlete at that age. I played soccer, softball, basketball, track, anything my mom could sign me up for I played and loved it. But soccer was definitely my focus, and I was the most serious and passionate about soccer. So upon being diagnosed, my first concern was, can I still play soccer? Like, what does this mean for me? And I feel like at such a young age, like, that's like your first love, and soccer really was my first love. And so the thought that like maybe I won't be able to play soccer, maybe I will, like I don't know, really like struck me, and I was really upset about that. The week that I spent in the doctor's office, I'm sure you guys all got that same Pink Panther book that has the coloring and all the diabetes facts and stuff. So I got that and kind of learned a little further like what diabetes is and how to handle it and how to stay healthy myself. But what they didn't teach me was how to be an athlete with diabetes. And that's something I really had to learn for myself, and it was a journey that my parents and me and teammates all went through together. And I had, I think, every single one of my teammates from every sport that I played at the time come and visit me in the hospital, and that's what taught me what team really is. You really learn like the people around you when you go through hard experiences like that, and I felt like very, very supported by my collegiate, my athletic community, and it was really special to me, and that's what kind of gave me the fuel to not give up. And so that was like really, really special. At that point I started to ease back into soccer and softball and basketball and track and whatever else I was doing, and it was a learning curve for sure, just like being diagnosed with diabetes was. I had to learn how to count carbs, check my blood sugar, administer insulin, and I was really independent with it. My parents were very, very helpful, but I wanted to do it myself, and I wanted to take responsibility for it myself. And so every opportunity I got, I did. So with soccer was a lot of trial and fail and trial and fail. And first my blood sugar would be low, and so I would take less insulin, and then my blood sugar would be too high, so I'd take more insulin, and then it would drop low because I took more insulin. And I'm sure you guys have all been a part of this vicious cycle where you never really know what's going on until you figure it out, and then something else happens, and then you just have to figure it out. So that was kind of my journey through youth soccer, was just trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. And my biggest advice, if you're going through that now or starting to encounter that, is just be as flexible as you can and try not to understand the why so much as the how to fix it. Because you can drive yourself crazy thinking like, why is it low? Like, why is it high? Like, why is this happening? Why do I have diabetes? And you're never going to get those answers. And right now, with where technology is and everything, what you can do is treat it. So when you're low, you eat some fruit snacks, or when you're high, you drink some water, you take some insulin. And that was the biggest like roadblock I had to get over in my head, was worry about the how and not the why. And to be honest, today that still gets me too. You have those days when you just can't figure out what's going on, and I just have to tell myself, focus on the how, not the why. Let's see, so throughout my like youth career, everything led up to soccer scholarship, soccer scholarship, soccer scholarship. And that's always what I dreamed of, and always what I wanted to do was play soccer in college. So in my freshman and sophomore year of high school were the most like integral times to get recruited and to pick out schools. And I had letters coming into me, I was reaching out to coaches, and ultimately I got a full ride scholarship to play here. And it was one of those times that I was so happy and so excited. This is what I've worked for. And it felt like nothing can stop me at this point. Like if diabetes was that obstacle, like I was able to overcome it and learn from it and adapt with it to get to where I am today. I think the biggest difference was me getting the insulin pump. So at first when I was diagnosed, it was, I mean, I have the scars all over my fingers like everyone else does. You check. But then I had all the little stab wounds all over my body from insulin injections, and then I transitioned to the pen, which was like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier than syringes. And then I always had people badgering me in the community, like, you need to get on the pump, like try the pump. And I just didn't feel like ready for that yet. And I think I received a lot of pressure from family, friends, family members, my endocrinologist, like my team basically, to get on the pump, and I just wasn't ready. And I think as soon as I decided I was ready, which I can't tell you what it was, but I just woke up one day and I thought, today's the day, like I think I want to try this, I want something new. And from that day forward, like my life got better exponentially. The pump has made my life so much easier, more convenient, and especially with playing soccer, has gotten so much easier. I worry less about, like, did I take the right amount of insulin? Like, did I wake up at exactly this time and take my long-acting insulin? Like, can I stay out a little later tonight? Or no, do I have to do this or whatever? So the flexibility that the pump has given me has made a huge difference. And that rolled over into soccer, because I was able to be more flexible, have a couple less things on my mind, and focus more on athletics and academics and whatever else. Let's see, so then I got to college soccer, and it was a totally different sport. And I know a lot of you guys probably want to play college sports, right? Yeah, maybe? You'll experience it too. It's a totally different sport. It's a totally different life. I'm working out, 6 or 7 days a week. I'm lifting weights, I'm running, I'm out in the sun. I'm from Portland. Like, we were never playing in the sun. Like, everything changed. Like, it got harder. Everything changed. And with that, my blood sugars changed. And so that was another transition. Just, again, being flexible and worrying about the how, not the why, that I got involved with. And I got it. It took a summer or a semester or whatever, but I eventually have gotten in a rhythm, and I think that rhythm's going to be different for everyone, which I'm sure everyone has a different case of diabetes. Like, insulin treats us differently, different foods treat us differently, like whatever, but you have to just be adaptable with yourself. And so I eventually figured it out and had 4 really successful years here at soccer, and it was really just a tremendous experience. And it could have been easy to let diabetes get in the way, but it didn't. And I think, I guess I'm here to show you that, it didn't have to, and it didn't. And, you guys have the potential to go after your dream, whether it is playing collegiate soccer or whatever. You all can do it, and diabetes won't be the reason that you can't. if you want any like more specific information about how I handled my blood sugars during practice or what I did when I did get frustrated or whatever, like I'm totally willing to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So did you ever feel like your coaches or someone else would judge you because you had diabetes? Like, did you disclose it or did you try out for teams first and see if you got selected? Was that ever a worry of yours that they would look at you differently if they found out you had type 1?
Yeah, that's actually really important. I'm glad you brought that up. So when I was diagnosed, I had played on the same soccer team for years, and I played on that team till I came here pretty much. That was just the community I grew up in. And so my teammates were there pre-diagnosis, diagnosis, post-diagnosis. And so everyone went through that same learning curve with me. And that all changed when I came to college. Because not a single person on my team is from Portland, let alone my team or my club or anything. And so the most important thing was to speak out to my team about it. And when I first came, I was just like a little freshman among all of these big, intimidating college soccer players. And we had a team meeting one day, and I just asked it, like, can I say something? And I sat everyone down, and I did pretty similar to what I'm doing now. Started at my diagnosis and kind of told the story. And then I explained, like, this is what type 1 diabetes is. Because I think that education is the most important. Like, half of my team was like, isn't that for old people? Or like, don't you have to be fat to get that? Or did you drink too much pop or whatever? And there's just so many stigmas around diabetes, partly to blame type 2, I think, but there were stigmas, and I wanted to just squash as much of that as I could. And today I have teammates, they're here with me now, that I overhear like explaining diabetes to other people. And they're like, no, like in my class someone said this is what diabetes is, and I sat them down and said, no, this is what it is. And so that was like one of the most like meaningful things to me, is like people that I'm around have understood diabetes and are sharing that knowledge with other people. And so, sorry, I didn't sit out, and it doesn't look like it's this big dangerous event, you know, where it absolutely could be, but I think it's all the face you put on and how you handle it. And so my coaches were very comfortable with me, and my teammates all recognize the signs and symptoms. So if there's ever anything going on, I would always get the question like, oh, you're looking kind of pale or shaky, or like, are you low, or like, you're getting kind of cranky, like, are you low? Which is like the worst question you can ask a diabetic. So those of you non-diabetics here, if you ever ask someone if their blood sugar is low and they're being grumpy, we will go to the bathroom and eat our fruit snacks just to spite you. That is the worst thing you can ask. But just, yeah, I think just interaction, like the more that you can check your blood sugar in front of your coaches or your teammates, the more comfortable they get with it and the more they understand it. And with type 1, I think, as I said, like education and understanding is like the most important. Yeah.
So, do you wear your pump while you're actually playing soccer?
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So she asked if I wear my pump while I'm playing soccer, and to be honest, it depends. Like I have it on now, right? But I can just unclip it when I play or leave it. I keep it in my sports bra, and so it's pretty well disclosed. But if I'm a little high before the game, then I'll wear my pump. And if I'm a little low before the game, then I won't. Or if I feel like I might be dropping low, then I won't. But it's really day dependent. So a lot of times during practice I will wear it, but a lot of times during the games I won't. And that's just a pattern that I've recognized and noticed through trial and error is really the best advice. But I would always check my blood sugar like when I arrived to the field, and then right before I started to warm up, and then right after warm-ups / before the game. And so I had these 3 numbers to judge, like, is my blood sugar going up, down, is it about the same, like patterns. And then at halftime I would take insulin or not, depending on my blood sugar as well, and decide from there. Yeah.
Were you still in high school when you decided to go on the pump, or was it when you came to college?
I was in 8th grade, actually, so I was a little younger. So I was diagnosed in 6th grade, and then towards the end of 8th grade, I made the push for the pump. And honestly, when I was in 8th grade and I got the pump, my first thing was like, why didn't I do this earlier? Like, I wish I would have. Like, my life could have been so much easier. But I also like recognized that I wasn't ready, and I can't tell you why, but I didn't feel ready. And I think that's the most important thing. Is it's me. Like, for so long when I was diagnosed, people were asking me, like, did you check your blood sugar? Like, did you take insulin? How many carbs did you think this had? And me choosing whether I was on or not on the pump was my choice. And so I think I maybe held on to that for a little while. But the second I got on it, I was like, well, I should have done this so long ago. And it's really been the best for me.
What made it easier for you? Like, what was the benefits
Of having the pump?
of having the pump?
So I took a Lantus injection in the morning, which is the long-lasting insulin, and another injection at night. And I wasn't very consistent with doing that. So when it was a school day and I had to be at school by 9, I would take it at 8. And then when it was a weekend, like, I didn't want to wake up at 8 to take a shot. Or if I was going to a friend's house just on a spontaneous, like, let's go to the movies, like, oh, let's have a sleepover, like, now I had to go home to get the insulin, my Lantus shot or whatever. And being able to eliminate that, I just get like a little dose of insulin every couple of minutes rather than having a long acting throughout the day. So that is a huge one. And then my pump knows all. So my pump, if I eat 30 grams of carbs right now, maybe I'll take 2 units of insulin. But if I had 30 grams of carbs at 5 p.m., maybe I'll take 6. And that's a little dramatic, but it's, for me, like, it's different in every hour of the day. Things change in my body for whatever reason, but I've gotten to a point where it's so fine-tuned that depending on the day, depending on the time, depending on how much I'm eating and what my blood sugar was, things are different. Whereas when I had injections before the pump, I'd sit down on my piece of paper and say, okay, 30 grams divided by 15 is 2. My blood sugar was about 50 over, so let's add a unit there. It was just like, it wasn't as formulated, I guess. And it's eliminated. I don't do any of the math other than counting the carbs. And my pump remembers it and knows me, and we have just this relationship that's amazing. Yeah,
How
really.
does it know that you need more insulin for the same amount of carbs at a certain time of day, though?
So I have settings in my pump. So basically, at 9 a.m., my insulin to carb ratio is 1 to 10, say. And at 12, it's 1 to 15. And these ratios were established when I was first put on the pump. And then I went a whole week and I had to eat the same exact food at the same exact time, the same exact amount for a week to get that baseline. And from there I could figure out my insulin carb ratios. And it was really a cool week because I could see how certain foods affected my blood sugar and how different times of the day or different amounts of food did as well. And since then, like, every time I go into the doctor, we look at charts, and if it looks like I'm running a little higher at noon every day and I'm eating lunch about 11:50, then it's like, okay, maybe I need to bump this up a little bit, or maybe something needs to be changed a little. And that's something that I don't think you can really replicate on injections. It's really nice.
So what kind of stuff do you do to prepare for a game? Like that day, what kind of stuff do you eat to make sure your blood sugar is at the right point before you play?
Okay, so we would always do team meals in college, but prior to that, like when I was younger, my ratio was I would eat really whatever the heck I wanted, and then half the amount of insulin that I thought I was going to take. That was when I was more in the honeymoon phase where I had a little bit of extra insulin still going anyways. So if it was a 4-unit lunch, I would just take 2 and then play the game and all would be good. And then as I got a little older and things started changing, my blood sugars were way too high before the game. And so I went back to just taking whatever it told me I took prior to exercise. And sometimes I would run into some lows, and adrenaline gives you that big spike, as I'm sure you guys have all experienced. And so I just had to keep playing with it and whatever. And when I went to college, like everything in college sports is strategy. So like we ate pretty much the same place, the same meal before every game. Like we ate a lot of Panera bread and a lot of Paradise, and I like to go higher protein and high carb at that time if I can, and then right before the game I like to do like a little bit of fruit snacks or like some fruit or something like a little bit higher carb that would just give me kind of that like jolt, I guess, and I would be able to be at ease knowing that my blood sugar wasn't going to drop at that point. And then otherwise I had a pretty good routine with that. After the games I would always try to eat within like a half an hour. I would always get these false highs after games, like from adrenaline is what I attributed it to. And if I took the full dose of insulin for that, within another hour my blood sugar would just tank. And so what I started doing was taking the insulin to correct my blood sugar and eating with it. And that's what leveled it out the best. And that could be anything from a salad to a soup or buffalo chicken wings or really whatever I wanted. Yeah.
Did you experience, like if you're low when you were playing, did you experience the same type of feeling when you were high too? Did the highs affect your feeling?
Especially here, actually. So it's so much hotter, and I feel like for me, like my biggest symptom when my blood sugar is high is thirst. And so I would be running around out here and I'm thirsty anyways, and then I would get thirstier, you know, from high blood sugar. So that definitely affected me a lot. Low blood sugar affects me like immediately. Like if I'm low, like I'm not participating, my head's not here, like my body's not here, like I'm not participating. If I'm high, I could participate to an extent, but at the risk of lowering my potential as a soccer player, basically. And so I would treat lows a little bit more seriously, but highs definitely affected me as well. It feels a little different when I'm on the field versus when I'm like sitting here talking to you guys. I think lows definitely would like sneak up on me a little bit there. I couldn't feel them maybe coming on, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, wait a second, like, you know, once you know, you know. Whereas highs were definitely gradual as well. And so just, I wasn't shy about like telling coaches like, hey, I need a couple minutes, I'm just gonna go check and relay. And I have never, ever, ever had a problem with a coach saying like, no, you can't, or we need you now, or whatever. Like every coach that I've ever played for, like every teammate, everyone has always had the utmost understanding and respect for like my time when I need to do what I need to do.
You don't have a continuous glucose monitor?
I don't. I really want one.
Oh.
She asked if I had a CGM, continuous glucose monitor, and I don't. And I think it could have been another turning point, just like getting the pump was for me through collegiate athletics, because I could have someone standing on the sidelines being like, "You're good," you know, or like, you know, come, you know, whatever, come over here really quick. And I think that honestly could have made a huge difference for me. But I didn't have it, and I made it, and everything was fine. But in terms of convenience, and I probably could have played more or been a part of more practices or whatever if I had had it. So I'm working right now closely to try to get involved with that. Do you have a question?
I think it was the same question.
Yeah, I wish.
Sheaffer, it's amazing how you embraced it as an adult and that transition from being in school, high school, to your college life. How was it for your parents?
Oh, that's another great question. She asked about my parents, how they felt. So with me going, I'm about 1,500 miles away from home with diabetes, you know, playing soccer, like any parent's scared when their child goes to college, and then adding diabetes on that. It's just a whole new dimension. My parents were very, very supportive. I think it's because I was very independent with my diabetes from the beginning, or as much so as I could be, that they always trusted me, I think. And there were times when I would wake them up with me, like, my blood sugar's low, it's middle of the night, like, will you come down and hang out with me while I get fruit snacks or do whatever. But other than that, like, I was really, really independent with it. I was diagnosed at an age where I could be, And I know a lot of people are young when they're diagnosed, and that makes it really difficult, and that transition to independence from parent dependence is really difficult. But I was diagnosed at, I think, a really prime time for me to like step up and take responsibility of my health. And so my parents were really at ease with that, I think. As well, like I am really fascinated by medicine. I want to become a dentist. And I always wanted to go to med school or PA school or dental school or something in medicine. And so I guess like my like awareness of my body and how it works and what's going on was like just an intriguing dimension to me. And so I think my parents enjoyed that too. Just knowing that at the end of the day I knew what was going on and how to treat it. Yeah.
Did you have to switch your endocrinologist here? Are you using the Compass physicians? How often are you using them?
Yeah, so I actually did not switch endocrinologists, but being an athlete here, we have access to trainers and treatment. For me, it's a little different. It's not like I sprained my ankle and I need to go get it wrapped, you know. But I actually do phone call doctor's appointments with my endo back home. And I can just pop over. I just tell them, like, it's time for an A1C, and I just pop over right here, actually, to Campus Health. And I can get an A1C done pretty much whenever I need or want. I'm I'm insured by Kaiser, which is just pretty much like a Pacific Northwest HMO. And so even if I had the opportunity, there's no one in Kaiser here. So that made that a little differently. If I had gone to a school in maybe like Northern California or Oregon or Washington, I probably would have switched. It would have been nice for some face-to-face interaction. But every time I'm home for spring break or summer break or winter break, I'm in with my endo.
Did you ever have a rough patch with diabetes when you just didn't want to do it anymore? Did you ever go through a period where you were angry about it, or angry at your parents, or just angry about it?
Absolutely. I can think of 2 times really when it's been darn, you know, and the first was when I was diagnosed. I was just like, no one else has to do this, you know, like, and it was a learning thing, and everyone's like, you're gonna be healthy, you're gonna be fine, whatever, and so I was happy about that. But at the same time, it's like, well, my friends don't have to check their blood sugar. Like, I'm the only one that has to sit out of practice. Like, I was the only 11-year-old that carried a lunchbox around with her everywhere because I had to keep my insulin in there and everything. And so I feel like when you're in middle school anyways, it's that transition of like, I want to be normal, I want to be like everyone else. But honestly, it gave me like a dimension, and like I knew a little bit more about my body and about everyone else than everyone else did. And like I was a little more responsible than everyone else was. And you know, like I had friends that like wanted to be doctors or do whatever, and they'd see me give myself shots and they were like this girl's cool, you know, like, and you know, like, so once I was able to embrace that, I was like, you know what, like, yeah, it's a little different for me, but like, look at all the things that I can do and that I know that others aren't, you know, capable of doing. And everyone always tells me like, oh my gosh, I could never check my blood sugar. Like, I hate needles. I'm so scared. And I was like, yeah, me too. Like, I wasn't just born on this planet loving needles. So I had to do the same thing. Like, I had to learn like how to check my blood sugar and how to do it. And like, oh, you're scared of that. Like, not me. Like, I'm tough. I'm not scared. And so that was a really important thing, like understanding, I guess. And then the second time was right before I went on the pump, and I was just at a period of like, I had got, it was 2 years diagnosed, like I've gotten in a routine, like I'm getting it, whatever, like things are going well, my A1Cs are coming down, and now I'm just kind of over it, where I was just kind of like, this isn't ever gonna, end. And it's easy to get in that mindset, like, crap, like this is me now, it's like a diet, like you can do it for so long, and then you see your results, and then you're like, well, now I want to eat pizza again or whatever. So I kind of went through that phase, and that's when I think what triggered me wanting something new. And that's when I got on the pump. It's like, I'm ready for something new and to introduce a different dimension to this, and to change it a little bit. And I think that's like important too. Like, it's easy to get in a rhythm and then to get bored of the rhythm or whatever it is. And so far I'm still happy, and there are days when my blood sugars high, and so I treat it, and then I check again, and then it's higher, and I'm like, what? Like, that isn't how that should work. But it's like going back to the how and not the why. It's just like I have to constantly remind myself of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're in middle school, did you go to any like diabetes camps?
I actually didn't. I wish I could have, but with soccer, I was such a competitive like little athlete at that time, and every summer I had practice and I had games and I had tournaments, and I wasn't willing to give those up for diabetes camps. And I wish I had, because it would have been cool. I meet like diabetics, like I'll see someone with like a pump cord sticking out on campus, and I instantly am like, oh my gosh, like I have diabetes too, like let's be friends, you know? You just have that connection with people. And so I think when I was younger, it would have been really nice to like connect with other diabetics and learn like how they do it, because everyone does it a little differently, and I think you can gain a lot from that. But no, I did never participate in any.
It's so interesting. It seems like there's such a difference in how it's managed. Like you said, you do the Lantis in the morning, and we were taught to do it at night, Jake. So yeah, it's like there's still a lot of differences.
Yeah, and I think everyone's like so different with it. Like, I can't eat grapes. Like, I can, but like grapes, I have to know, like I can look it up and I can Google like there are X amount of carbs in X amount of grapes, and my blood sugar will be 300 after I eat them. And so I'm like tripling and quadrupling the amount of insulin I'm taking just for a couple of grapes, you know. And it's like where Jake can probably have as many grapes as he wants for 2 units or whatever it is. So it's like everyone's so different, and it's adaptability, but it is cool to be able to learn from other people, like how they do it. Like, oh, maybe it would have been more convenient if I had known that, and I could have taken it at night instead of in the morning too. You know, like, I don't know. I think that's why these ambassador groups are so important, so you can meet a lot of people and how they do things differently.
Now, Sheaffer, do you want to introduce your teammates again?
Yeah, I'd love to. Do you want to? So this is Allie. She's my roommate / teammate, and Jackie, roommate / teammate as well, came in with me and learned about all the diabetes things, and Jackie just kind of got along with it, basically. So as the new freshman classes kept coming in, my speech changed a little more and a little more, because I had this group of people that understood it and just a couple that didn't. And so I kind of let them rise instead of me re-explaining everything again, if that makes sense. And so they both probably have the same amount of knowledge now, but they came in at different times.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was an adjustment at first, you know, when Sheaffer came in, and obviously I knew nothing about diabetes whatsoever, really. Like, we had a couple people, like family friends who had experience, but I really knew nothing, and it was definitely interesting, especially, I've lived with Sheaffer for 3 years now, basically, almost 4 pretty much, and it's definitely interesting to learn and to, you know, hear the difference between type 1 and type 2, and I find myself, like Sheaffer had mentioned earlier, almost educating other people and almost getting like defensive, like, no, there's a difference between type 1 and type 2. And I think it's super important, like Sheaffer mentioned, with education and everything, you know, there's no shame in sharing, you know, I have diabetes, like, if anything brought us closer, you know, you can help out, like, Sheaffer, what's your blood sugar at, like, how you feeling, what's going on, just kind of a give and take thing there. And it's definitely really important that you have like that team and network behind you, and that you tell your friends, your teammates, teachers, coaches, anyone in your life. It's really important to kind of, I guess, rally around, you know, the diabetics in your life, and I think that's really important.
Going off of that, like, I was really nervous at first, like I had mentioned, being like the little kid, like talking to the big kids about it, and I don't know, like maybe they thought I was gonna be weird, or like, what the heck is this robot attached to her body, or what, but everyone, like, after like the big kids came up and they were like, wow, how did you do all of this? Like, you play soccer in college and you have to deal with all this. And so I was like really respected, I guess, for it. And on top of that, everyone was like, wow, you're so smart, or like, that's so cool that you can do all that. And it was totally like in my head, I was thinking like, oh, they're gonna think I'm weird, like I'm nervous, like whatever. And everyone like embraced me like in like the greatest way, where I felt like even better after sharing than what I had expected.
We even checked our blood sugar.
Oh yeah, I've had, like, these girls have all checked their blood sugar just because they're curious and they're like, oh my god, you do that 10 times a day or whatever, and like they wanted to, and I like love that they're like interested and stuff.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is who's going to play soccer? Raise your hand if you're going to play soccer.